Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Black Power Library. I'm broadcasting out of the Cayman Islands, and today I'm going to be talking about um, basically the exploitation of the black female image in media and stuff like that. But I want this to be a dialogue, a two-way thing. Not just me sort of, spouting off at the mouth. So I'll try my best to concentrate on any questions or comments and, on as well as what I'm putting forward here. I'm not an expert. I'm not a sociologist. I'm just a regular guy who. All right, cool. All right. Okay, it's after dinner in your country. All right. Well, it's morning time here in the Cayman Islands. At this point, um, I think the best way for me to start off is by reading. Basically, I'm just going to read about two paragraphs out of a book here. It's called Black Womanhood: Images, Icons, and Ideologies of the African Body. So, paragraph 1. When Europeans first encountered indigenous peoples from beyond their shores in the 15th century, non white bodies became curiosities to Western societies. So began a long history of placing indigenous peoples in their cultures, correction, and their cultures on display. A growing appetite for the exotic led to the display of indigenous bodies, cultural artifacts, and images of the exotic, in quotation, other from around the world. Initially, this occurred in the private salons of Europe, of European nobility and social elite, but over time these activities began to serve larger political, scientific, and public entertainment purposes. So this basically started out from the get. Uh, Europeans first recorded, to the best of my knowledge, um, recorded incident of going into Africa and kidnapping some Africans and taking them out to Europe was sometime in the 1440s. Early 1440s is when this took place. So we can see that this began. Thank you. We can see that this began basically immediately as they took them out in the 1440s, because I know there were accounts of them taking them back to Europe and putting them on display. Immediately putting them on display. Um, so, this thing, was from the get. So, my question is, has that stopped? Has the exploitation of the black female body, African female body, that image, has that stopped? Did the wider world put that away? Did Europe put that away? Absolutely not, and I agree. Absolutely not, and I totally agree with you. What I'll do is just jump on to the second paragraph. I won't, you know, um, kill this little broadcast or this discussion with a whole pile of reading, but I'm just going to set the foundation to the discussion. From the beginning of the 19th century until the mid-20th centuries in Europe and America, the display of indigenous bodies increasingly occurred in circuses, zoos, and museums. World expositions especially were popular forums for human spectacles toward the end of the 19th century, when native villages, that's in brackets, native villages, were reconstructed and populated with indigenous men, women, and children who performed their daily routines and rituals for Western audiences. Now, it's funny how these people operate, because I would say, in my opinion, that National Geographic they've continued the practice. So in other words, they don't have to reconstruct an artificial village in say Amsterdam and bring in some Africans and put them in it and have them do their daily routines in it, like a sort of zoo type weird thing. They can go to Africa and take pictures and broadcast it to the world. Whereas me and you might be looking at it as a, well, appreciating it for, it's a different culture. How do Europeans look at that? Through their cultural lens. How do they look at it? I would assert that they don't look at it the same way that we look at it. It to me, anyway, I think it justifies them exploiting black people, because they can say, oh, look at those uncivilized black people, Anyway, the spectacle of cultural otherness did not stop at live human displays. The dissected and embalmed remains of native bodies, particularly their skulls and sexual organs, provided further attraction and entertainment in public displays and exhibitions conducted in the name of science. So you can see how far these people went with this. Now, I would say to add insult to injury is a grave understatement, in that, in the context of the United States, when they would lynch black people for their entertainment, because these lynchings that would take place, sometimes you watch the movies and they'll show you a bunch of hicks chasing a black man or something through the woods or through the bayou somewhere, catching him and stringing him up under a cypress tree or something. But that took place, but it was deeper in it was a more grand spectacle for them than that. It was public spectacle. Welcome to my room. It was public spectacle. So what they would actually do is they would take they would actually have the town would basically come out to witness these lynchings, and when the lynchings would take place, they would then dissect parts of the bodies and the skulls and the various parts of the remains of the body, and they would pickle these parts for souvenirs. So that is the extreme that they would take it, in the US. Okay. For Western nations, interest in the exploitation of Africa and its human natural resources, world expositions were especially useful in justifying colonization. In fact, exhibition organizers openly promoted notions of Western racial, economic, technological, and artistic superiority over African cultures, infantilizing them as needy recipients of Western discipline, religion, civilization, and industry. So, we can see that from, like I say, the get-go, they've taken these Western powers have taken control of black people body, and I would go as far as say soul. Right now, when you as a black person take on the attributes of your oppressor, he's obviously got your soul. He's obviously got your soul. Not just your body, but he's definitely got your soul. And then once he's got your soul, you can go and infect other people with, this with what he's infected you with. Now, in terms of the African female body, I know that, let's say, for example, in the United States, many females who are classified as black don't consider themselves, let's say, African per se. That's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. I'm not here to push that agenda or tell anybody what to think. But what I can say is, by and large, in the context of the United States, or I'd say the white world, in mass, it doesn't matter where they've happened to drop you off or drop your ancestors off, whether it was the Caribbean, whether it was the so-called United States of America, whether it was Central America or South America, or in some cases some parts of Europe, or whether it was in the so-called Middle East, whether it was in India, or whether it was in China, because black people were taken as far as China. Some went, I must admit that, some black people went to those lands voluntarily, but that's not really the focus of what I'm talking. I'm talking about forced. But in terms of, but irregardless of where your ancestors were dropped off, those people look at you as black African. You can't get out of that. They might tell you it to your face, but that's how they feel. So again, the exploitation of the black female. To me, one of the most devastating and disgusting, for me personally, it's just my personal opinion, things that I've witnessed is what I would consider the exploitation of the black female being literally universally broadcast, because by, for example, BET. Because, and I have to say universally, because when those signals go out into space, they don't just circle around the Earth. Those signals go out literally out into the universe. So when I look at, bearing in mind what this book is talking about, how they exploit the image of the black woman, and when I see that same type of exploitation still going on BET. Now, I must admit that I don't normally watch BET, but it's hard to miss. You go to a friend's house, or you go somewhere, you see it on. It's hard to miss. All of this, what I call ratchetness, that they're portraying on BET to the world. No, the whole world is watching, and down here in the so-called Caribbean, so-called West Indies, where I live, we talk about this all the time. Now we visit the United States from the Cayman Islands. Many Caymanians visit the United States. We have family there in the United States. So we're well acquainted with the United States, and we know that everybody, what you see on BET isn't real life. We know that that's entertainment. Again, entertainment for who? Right? We know that the way that women are, welcome to the room, Sugar. We know that the entertainment that is put out on BET, for example, is not reality. We know that. We know that. But what is sad is that the wider world, thanks for the heart, the wider world is not aware of that. They actually, think that that's real life, and that's how black people are. Now, like I say, we in Cayman, we know better than that. But the wider world, they have a warped and distorted image of blacks in the United States based on this negative imagery that is put out. And again, what is sad is that the black female is put on the forefront and exploited for this sick entertainment, right? And this sort of twisted, perverted, mind thing for these other people in their interests. Again, so we can get some grounding as to where I'm at. I'm talking about the African female body. And I'm talking about it be in the wider context of the media, and it's being, the exploitation, right? The image, that's what I'm getting at. And how that negative image, because they create these stereotypes too, how these negative images affect us as black people in the wider world. I don't know if I'm being clear, right? So they justify, based on what I've read earlier, it's justified. They use these negative images of the black female, these exploitive images, to justify the exploitation of black people. Thank you very much. So, in other words, this is how I see it. Imagine you don't know any better, and you're not, say living in the States, right? Or I would say you're living in the United States, but you don't have any, you're insulated, and you don't have any contact with black people, right? You look on these shows that are basically fantasy, but it's shown the black female as this sort of overly sort of, I don't know how to articulate this, but it's sort of overly highly sort of sexual, almost animal. Right? No, yeah, all men and women like sex, but they try to sort of put it as if the black female is somehow more like she wanted more than everybody else, and some kind of twisted fantasy that they have, right? And of course they show the black male, and again here's the word black male, but anyway, they show the black male as this savage. Right? So it justifies in their mind the extermination of the black male. So again, what I'll ask is, in the opinion of my viewers, has the image of the black female, this exploitation, has it stopped since the 1440s when it first begun in Europe? Has that exploitation stopped, or has it continued on to today? Well, in my opinion, it has not stopped. In my opinion, it is still going on. Thank you. It is still going on full swing. And I would say it's ratchet up, gone up higher. Because whereas in the 1800s, when they could, show parade the female body, around the black female body around Europe in zoo-like conditions, that was just limited to those who could go and see. But now they've taken that image and they've put it on various medias, internet nowadays, and television and so on, magazines, and they've now put in this exploitive images of the black female out there. I would say one of the most, well, this book that I'm actually that I'm referencing here, which is Black Womanhood, Images, Icons, and Ideologies of the African Body. Chapter 1, The African Female Body in the Cultural Imagination. Now, when they're talking about the cultural imagination, they're not talking about the African or the black community cultural imagination. They're talking about Western white imagination is what they're talking about, as the so-called academics would call it, the Occidental thought, mind, and all that foolishness. Yeah, this book is edited by Barbara Thompson. They later go on to talk about Sarge Bartman, right? Back in 1814, who was actually tricked. I'm not going into the details, but she was actually tricked. She was like one of these, what we call it, from the Khoisan people, or some people say the Twa people, or from South Africa, or some people would say, this is a pejorative term now, but some people would say like the Bushman. That is what she was, where she had what is still celebrated in the black community, I mean, what can I say? She basically had what we consider ample posterior and and large genitals, right? In large breasts. Now, by European standards, the sizes of it would be like, let's call it exaggerated. So she was kidnapped and taken to Europe, paraded around Europe, and also she was, sad to say, I mean, damn, she was actually exploited to the point of prostitution. If memory serves me correctly, she would have been introduced to alcohol and became an alcoholic. She was depressed, wanted to go home. You know, I think she even took a case against these people to court. You know, and they totally you know, disrespected this woman and put her into this degraded position, parading her around, and she would have on accounts are given that she had on a type of sort of stalking suit, and she would go out and they would look at her and sort of poke and prod and look. Right? Now again, right, I must say, when we watch BET, we know this is a so-called entertainment, but again, now let me just explain something. I'm living on BET because that is, in my opinion, the forerunner of pushing the negative images of the black female out there. Again, I don't normally watch it, but you can't help but see it. You're in the barber shop getting a haircut, BET's on, right? So anyway, Bartman's was paraded around, right? This has never stopped, and like I say, we in, let's call it, the black community, when we look at these things on, for example, BET, we look at it through a certain cultural lens of, okay, you know, yeah, this, you know, that's just, you know, fun, and, you know, we're sort of just fun and you know, letting off a little steam and stuff like that, sort of almost like a playful you know, when you have jokes with your friends and family, you kind of put them down and stuff, but you just play it. That's how we might look at these BET and other like networks, but the whole world do not see it that way. No, Saint, welcome to my page. The whole world do not see it that way, and in my opinion, the black community need to step up and hello, and take control of the images of their females. They need to step up, take control of the images of their females. Even if they cannot control the images of their female, then in my opinion, there needs to be a counter offensive or whatever against these negative images that are put out there against the black female, right? There needs to be a counter, because it's really out of control, you know. And there again, black female being exploited, you know, being exploited, image being exploited. She is the loser, right? Sad to say, the black female at the end of the day is always the loser, right? We might claim that, oh, we're in a progressive whatever society, in the context of the United States, that is, and all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, right, as history has always played out, right, a lot of rich men, and mostly rich white men, that get a bag of money, At the end of the day, yeah, absolutely correct, Sugar. These images are all, easily disseminated all over the world, And at the end of the day, the black female and her generations to come again gonna be the ones to suffer, and the cycle continue on and on, right? But yeah, absolutely, these images are circled around the globe, and like I said earlier, it's actually out into the universe, because when they send these images out, they literally go out into outer space. And yeah, they go on and on, right? So the black female image being constantly exploited for the benefit of in many cases, or in most cases, non-blacks, right? And I'm sure that we can think of many examples. I mean, look for example, the tennis, famous tennis players, the Williams sisters, Serena and the other one there. Forgive me, I'm not a tennis fan, but look at those two sisters, right? Those women are, let's put it this way, they're the best in the world. These two black females are the best in the world. I mean, they've been tearing stuff up. I mean, come on, look look at what they've been doing. And consistent, right? Now, at the same time, you find media taking their image, right? Taking their image and putting a highly sexual spin on it and shooting it to the world. Exploitation of the black female. Exploitation of her image, right? And there are millions of people who really don't care about tennis. It's good for exercise, I can tell you that. But they don't give, they don't care anything about tennis, but they will follow tennis and watch Serena and them purely out of sexual, from a sexual twist. No, I'm not here to judge that, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying. So, I would say so far we've established that the black female body constantly under attack, constantly being exploited, right? I must admit though that I don't know if I want to say to kind of balance this out, but the black to be honest with you, I'm not sure where you can I don't know if you can get it on Amazon, because I actually got it locally. This is the cover. She's holding so here's a black female, obviously, and I think this cover, well, anyway, I'm not sure if the cover was done just for the book, but very powerful image. Speaks on a lot of levels, subliminally. Yeah, but there are those, I know that the black female have been exploited and have been kind of top heavy on that, but I must say too though that the mere image of the black female is and has always been the envy of the world, right? Not only her image, but her talents as well, right? Because Yoko, all right, I do. I'm not a tennis expert, so I you gotta forgive me. I'm not even sure who that is, but the this guy John Lennon or whatever just got this, I guess what they call it, posthumous prize for one Nobel Peace Prize for his lyrics. His woman that he had there, that Asian woman, I think she was called Yoko Ono. I saw an interview where she actually said that she, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, that and that is, where a lot of people get into those stuff purely for the sexual you know, pull and lure, and sexual nuance of these things. But Yoko Ono, I saw an interview on YouTube somewhere, I think it was, where she said that, I'm only paraphrasing now, but basically she was saying that she wanted like to be black, right? But I think that was more in the context of singing. I can't say it was in terms of how you look, but in terms of talents and stuff like that. But this discussion here, anyway, I'm kind of going off a little bit, right? But I just thought I'd drop that in. Oh, before I forget, like I said, I'm a bit top heavy on the exploitation of the black female, but the black female image has been from ancient times, actually, right, straight up until now, the envy of the world, and in our time, envy of non-blacks. And I would even say, you got some, real real sexy black woman out there who got a little bit of extra on certain parts, and they're the envy of other black women as well. But that's another story. And all women should love themselves. Black women should love themselves any way that they come. Because I must say that black women, forgive me, I don't want to be, because I mean I'm a male, and I wish that I had a female beside me to actually balance this out, right? That is why I'm tending to like when my viewers, it don't matter male or female, but especially female viewers in the context of what I'm talking about would input. I don't like talking so much about women, and I'm a guy, but the black female, right, image has motivated. It is of such an envy that it has even motivated, or I should say influenced fashion. Because in the old days, you see these things, I think they used to call them bustles, where and it was big, all the rage in so-called European high society, where they would have basically like some form of wire type contraption up underneath their dress, basically simulating a big ass. That's basically what it was. So it have like these huge thing coming up. No, I'm of the opinion that was influenced, although it was highly exaggerated because they were like way out there. But I personally believe that was influenced by the same Sarji Bartman and images like hers, when she paraded around Europe. Those white girls saw that, in my opinion, because if you look at the timelines of when she would have been paraded around Europe, right? And when images out of South Africa and places of these black females and and stuff like that was being disseminated around the planet, then coincidentally a bunch of white girls invented a fashion with a big ass, and who knows? I can't assume that it was white women who invented it. Who knows? It was probably white men who decided, I want you to look like Sarge, or anglicized version of her name, Sarah. Cool. Have a good night. But yeah, sugar. Yeah, absolutely. You know. But yeah, that's the correlation. When you so when you connect the dots. Again, I must say I'm sort of doing this by ear. I'm just a regular guy who's broadcasting out of his library in the Cayman Islands. My interests. I'm a Black history enthusiast, right? But apart from that, I would consider myself to be living Black history, because every Black person, in my opinion, who's living and who has passed and transitioned are living Black history, because we're Black, right? Classified, we're Black people. But anyway, I'm just a regular guy who love this stuff, live for this stuff, But I just thought it fitting to have this discussion today about the exploitation of the Black female. And if there's another book that I would say I would recommend, is this book here, Sex Prisoners by Dale Jones. Right? This have about three parts. This is actually volume 3. And it's a very hard to get book. Very expensive on Amazon. And I don't even know if you can even get it on Amazon now. But hard to get. But it talks about the exploitation of the Black female in this in the popular media and entertainment, talking about Janet Jackson and various other persons. But anyway, I'll just wrap up my broadcast now. And for those who took the time to watch it, I'd like to say thank you very much. I appreciate it. And for those viewers who have taken the time to look at the rebroadcast, I appreciate it as well. I guess I'll keep this up there for a little while, So again, regular guy in his library in the Cayman Islands, coming out to you, right? So thank you very much, and I'll be doing this hopefully every day. But thank you very much for those who tuned in, and I appreciate it. Good day and peace.